there we go. This is the third PLC of this cycle. We started the PLC program up again. We're going to run these through the entire grant cycle and kind of follow you through. It's a little different this time, and rather than once every 2 weeks, it's going to be once a month. But we'll try to cover the same materials and develop the same community as we had before. If you can, I was telling everyone, if you go into the participant box where we've got participants, click on that and go into your name. And if you could, as I did, my name is Michael Senu, KSU JT Tab. If you could put the name of your organization, that sometimes helps, because when people we're discussing something, they'll know where you're from, and gives it a little bit better as far as identification. I'm going to be going solo today. You know, normally our team is myself and Steve Fenton and Nolan Curtis, and they deserted me. Nolan is in Barcelona, so pool on him. I'm in North Carolina, and Steve is at a greatest training program in Bettendorf, Iowa, which we'll talk about a little later. But we do have Tim, and Tim is fantastic. Tim is our web guy. He knows everything. Tim, I shouldn't compliment you too much. They might try to steal you away from us, but Tim is great. He knows the internet, and he knows how to run these programs, and it's been helping us with our website. Every program needs a Tim of some sort. I think you guys will agree. So Tim, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, sure. Tim Hunter. Just been helping out the guys here, with their program and their website and stuff like that. I'm here for any technical support. If anybody has any problems with their, microphones or anything like that, just shoot me a message in the chat.
Okay. And I'm Mike Senu. I'm facilitating the meeting. I've been with the job training program since it started, and we'll kind of guide you through what's going on, the current events, what's happening in Washington when the RFA comes out, what's happening for current grantees that they have to keep their eyes open as we go through. And we'll be having several events through the year we'll be talking about in a little while. Jackie Murray, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hello. I am sitting in for Dr. JT Robinson. He's having some medical procedures today. So we've worked together in the past before on a community development grant. I'm located in Baltimore. We have an upcoming grant that we'll be applying for, $7 million for workforce training in the recycling program, to expand his operations that he's been very successful in managing. So I am here. My normal day-to-day is I'm a real estate developer with architectural training. So I do design, build, construction, but I'm very passionate about anything oriented towards regeneration. So do a little community development grant writing on the side.
Dr. Robinson's emailed me, told me he wouldn't be able to attend, and it's great. He's really interested in this program, and we've been putting him in connection with one of our stars, Recycle Force in Indianapolis. And they recycle everything with a plug, and they're doing fantastic. I mean, they're doing great. And he's at a greatest training we're going to be talking about a little bit later. So
thank you for having me.
Jason.
Yes, that's me. Hi, Jason Iwaneski. I am at the City College of New York, Wrangle Initiative Workforce Development Program. We are a grantee, and glad to be here today. Good to see everyone.
And Jason's got a story to tell. I don't mean to be dragging, this may take a little longer than usual, but Jason had we're going to talk about the Greatest Institute, but they put on a Greatest Institute. And what happened, Jason? Are you familiar with that? With the demonstrations you had?
Matter of fact, right now, this second, over my right shoulder, there is apparently a sit-in demonstration that involves Yeah, the last couple of weeks, there have been significant protest demonstrations here on City College that have involved, I mean, it's been all over the news, but for those of you lucky enough to stay away from the news these days, police involved and people arrested and this sort of thing. It had been pretty well quelled the past few days, but I guess right now there is a sitting happening, which I guess it's around the corner a little bit. And there I hear sirens. So if you see me getting up and running out of here, that'll be it. But I'm in a pretty safe environment. I'm not too concerned about it. Hopefully it'll just be all very peaceful stuff.
City College of New York, one of our grantees, put on a training for train the trainers, and about a 5.5 day program, and about halfway, right near the end, they had to close the college because of the demonstrations. But you're able to finish with
Yep.
Zoom. I understand you were working at a community center for the end of that program. But
Yeah, that's right. That's right. For some of the hands-on stuff, the instructors were all really fantastic, and were able to transition and cope and sort of figure it out, which I guess is part of that world, right? If you
That's it.
Disaster relief, you have to figure it out, and conditions are changing, and they all did a fantastic job. So I commend those fellas.
Okay. Diana Napier.
Yes, hi, everybody. I'm Diana Napier with the Workplace. We're a Workforce Development Board in Bridgeport, Connecticut.
Great. Okay. Elizabeth.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Richardson. I am with CClear, and this is my first meeting, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Rob
Jones, Groundwork, Richmond, Virginia, Groundwork RVA. Not my first meeting, but don't come as regularly as I could.
Well, welcome. And Mac's an old friend. How are you, Mac?
Hi everyone, I'm Mac Delabed. I'm from my side, previously known as Southwest Economic Solutions. I'm out of Detroit, Michigan, and we had we're ending our EPA grant here in Detroit.
Hope we're going to get a re-up
We're
on
going to
that.
get renewal. Hopefully, we'll try.
Let's work on that.
Yes, exactly.
Maria.
Hi, everybody. I'm Maria Sanchez. I'm with Mass Hire Central Region Workforce Board in Massachusetts, specifically in Worcester, Massachusetts. This is not my first meeting. I have attended, I think, 1 or 2 in the past, but I haven't been here in a while. Usually Bruce or Jeff Turgeon are the one that joined. So.
Great. Deborah.
Hello, how you doing? Let me see what is wrong with my thing. Okay. Hi, I'm Deborah Love with E3 Solutions in Alabama. Just received a grant from EPA, so we are looking forward to getting started on that. The job training grant that will be in Selma, Alabama, and the Dallas County area.
And Deborah, your husband's in Bettendorf, Iowa today, receiving training. So you're going to develop your own trainers. We'll talk about that later too.
Okay.
So but I heard he's doing great. He's enjoying the training. I just got a call from there.
Oh, thank you.
And let's go to Alan.
Alan Lim, I'm from the Workforce Development Board in Utica. We're covering Herkimer, Madison, and Oneida counties. This is my first meeting. We were recently awarded a grant from EPA.
Fantastic. Okay, new grantees. Candace.
Good morning. My name is Candace Hatch. I'm with the City of Pittsburgh. I am also the administrator for our pre-apprentice program, Future Build.
Okay. And is that Gelato's? Gelatelos? Jgaliootos. Are you there? We'll come back. Amy from Alaska.
Yes.
Hello, my name's Amy. I'm from the Alaska Forum. We're in Anchorage, Alaska, and we have had a grant for quite some time. We're currently doing a community emergency response training program with the current grant that we have. for
Fantastic.
emergency response training in rural Alaska.
Alaska's been one of our stars, and welcome. And one of our favorite regional coordinators, Linda. Are you there, Linda?
Yes, I am. I don't think my video is working, but hi everyone. I am Linda Morgan, Regional Job Training Coordinator for Region 5. Hi everyone. Hey Matt.
Hey, Mac, and if you're in
And
Region 5,
Kelly.
yes.
Hey.
And
Okay,
if
my
you're in
camera's
Region,
not working, so
oh,
sorry
and
about
if
that.
you're in Region 5, she's the one to call. She's fantastic. Deborah. Trevor. City of Tacoma. Are you there? We'll come back. Amber Holden from Eastern Wyoming.
Yeah, hi everyone. My name's Amber. I'm in Torrington, Wyoming. I'm a grant writer for Eastern Wyoming College, and we're going to be partnering with Wyoming Department of Workforce Services to write our first Brownfield grant this year.
Fantastic. Congratulations. Dr. Mitchell Smith.
Hello, everyone. Mike, great seeing you again. We're up here in Northern California, San Francisco, California. This is we just finished up our 23rd cohort, and we're looking to go for another grant. But I thought I'd just check in and see who's around. Always good to see Mike. And welcome everyone.
We're all still.
By the way, I'm Workforce Development Director for Young Community Developers. We have a partnership with Hunters Point Family on this grant that we've been doing forever.
That's right. And you're going to re-up, I hope.
Yeah, we are. This
Okay.
year going back.
You're about ready for a re-up, and this is a 5-year term this time. So
it's a 5-year term. So
yes.
we're gonna
so welcome.
do that.
Hunters Point has been a fantastic grantee, and there's some great stories over the years. And you've got particular issues of that part of California. We could do a whole session just on Hunters Point.
The Navy just came in and said they've been mandated to take down the entire shipyard. So it's a pretty big job.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
They built all the ships during World War I and II, during World War II. And the Gomar Explorer was disassembled there, I think.
Correct.
So with all the problems that are associated with that. So.
Absolutely.
So let's see, how about Amber? Oh no, we covered Amber from Eastern Wyoming. Correct. How about Kelly?
Hi, I'm Kelly Grosspitch from Lorain County in Ohio, and I'm an economic development specialist.
Okay, fantastic. And Alyssa from Region 4.
Hi, yeah, sorry, I'm trying to get my camera on. I don't have it open. I am the job training backup. I have one job training grant in Florida. So I'm just looking to learn more. So thanks for having me.
Well, great. Yeah, we're doing something that most people don't do, but we've got enough people we could do it. And what we try to do with these PLCs and with the whole job training community is try to get to know each other, and so we can share information between us on what is the best ways to implement our programs. So Jacqueline.
Hi, my name's Jacqueline Pina. I'm in New Bedford, Massachusetts. I am the community liaison for a Brownfield grant that we are working with.
Okay, and you're working with Buddy and the whole crew out there.
Yes, Old Bedford Village, yes.
Fantastic. Buddy's been around for a long time, and we really enjoy him being part of this.
Good for him.
Yes. Hannah.
Hi, I'm Hannah. I'm from St. Nick's Alliance. I'm in New York City. We do a grant for environmental remediation. We've been doing it for about 20 years, but I am brand new to it. So just happy to be here.
Well, I'll tell you, St. Nick's been one of our stars also, and they've been around for a long time. And St. Nick's got started when the city burned down, or their community burned down. They decided to rebuild the community, and then as they grew, they turned into helping people get jobs. And you've been a grantee on and off over the years, and hopefully we'll get you rolling. Are you in a current grantee, or are you re-upping? Oh yeah,
We
okay.
are. Yep.
Yeah, that's right. You just got a 24 or 23 or 24 grant. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And Raveen Harrell. Raveen.
Hello, everyone. My name is Raveen Harrell. I'm the career counselor with Wrangle Initiative, Workforce Initiative at City College of New York in Harlem.
Fantastic. Well, now who did I miss? Anyone? Did I miss?
Mike, John Galiotos,
Yes.
because he's having problems with his microphone.
Oh,
and Deborah Trevorrow said
Yes.
she's from the City of Tacoma Workforce Programs Analysis.
Okay.
And they received a 2023 Brownfield Job Training Grant. And she said she's just observing today.
Oh, okay, great. City of Tacoma, they've been, it started with Kane County, and City of Tacoma has been a grantee before, and they were a fantastic grantee. So congratulations. Well, what you've seen in this exercise we've just done, you've got to know we're a diverse group of people. There's not a lot of us. There's about 50 of us total grantees. And the nice thing about that is it's a small group and we can help each other. And the idea is to work together as a group. We try to meet once a year as a group to exchange ideas and see what's going on and see what's happening new, so that we could all grow together. And as you've seen, some of you have been around for 20 years and some of you have not been around. And the idea is to get those that had not been around to get around and to join the club. It's a great time to be doing environmental job training because of the Infrastructure Act. There happens to be money available. This used to be a very, very small program, and now it's still small compared to the Department of Labor, but there are funds available, and EPA is making them available through these grants. That brings us to what's happening as we speak. I was anticipating we may have the RFA for the FY25 cohort come out any day. In fact, I looked this morning to see if it was out, being prepared to talk to that. They keep the RFA secret pretty much. Actually, this will not be released until the White House releases it. It goes through several steps in EPA, through the grants office, and then finally is released by the White House, and then it appears on grants.gov. We will send everyone out a message or copy of it as soon as it's issued. It will be a little different than last year. It's hard to tell. There are two major changes we know about. One being that they're allowing coalitions, which is really good for people in tribal areas or tribal communities, or in rural areas where you wouldn't have to have a specific target group, but you could have, for example, several reservations within one or two states and join in as a coalition. So you'd have a primary grantee, and then you'd have sub-grantees. And there may be some situations where that could also apply in areas where you're covering a large community. That's new this year, where you'd have a primary grantee and then you'd have sub-grantees that would form this coalition. The other one that's of interest to those of you who have grants is the conditions for reapplying for a job training grant. They went from 3 years to 5 years. And now they've put a condition, which we'll find out more as the RFA comes out, but it basically says that if you want to re-up, you want to reapply, you have to have exhausted 50% of your funds on your last grant. You either have to be closed out on your old grant. That would be one thing to reapply. For example, in perhaps it would be King County, who had a grant and they closed out and they were out for a year or two and they came back. That would be one condition. The other one would be you're running a grant and you want to re-up it for another 5 years, or you had a grant and your 3 years is running out and you want to re-up for 5 years. You want to make sure that by June 1st of this year, if you're doing this year, you have to have dispersed 50% of the funds from your last grant, which wouldn't be too hard, I don't think, for most existing grantees. So if you're coming towards the end of your grant, you want to make sure that you either close it out or you've exhausted 50% of your funds. We know those two things are going to happen. There may be some other things that are going to go on as far as the RFA goes, but we really, I don't know about them. Some of the regional coordinators may know about it, but they can't talk about it. So we'll find out in the coming days. What happens is EPA will issue any day. They say it's going to happen in May. So in the next 2 weeks, they'll issue the RFA, a request for applications, and then they'll schedule a webinar where they will discuss all of the aspects of the threshold criteria, the ranking criteria. They'll answer any questions you have, and they'll go through the entire application request. That would be the official EPA webinar. The interesting thing about that, for those of you who have questions about your particular grant, you can talk to your regional coordinator up until that RFA is issued, and then they can't talk to you about your specific grant. They could talk about the RFA, but they can't discuss your particular grant. Before the RFA is issued, we recommend you get in touch with your regional coordinator, tell them you're going to be applying. They like to know that. They like to get you on a list of people who are interested in submitting an application. You'll get on their contact list. They may be able to recommend people you want to touch base with, or there may be other applicants or grantees in that particular region that you could touch base with. So this 2-week period before the RFA is out would be an excellent time to touch base with your regional coordinator. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with PLCs, we record these, and we also will publish post-session notes. And those notes have all the connections you need, all the links to the regional coordinators. So you don't really have to take notes, and those will be out in a couple of days. This year, which we're doing a little bit differently, we're posting the recordings on YouTube. So you could Google, in fact, if you want to look at the past recordings, if you missed a couple of the recordings, even some from last year, you can just Google YouTube and type in the words KSU JT-tab.
I just put it into the chat as well.
Oh, thanks, Tim. Yeah, if you Google that, it'll say that, and it'll say YouTube next to it, and you could click on it, and you'll get the notes from all the PLCs we've done this year, which is only 2 so far. And then this one will be posted next week, and then some from last year. And there'll be also the Connect News, which is a newsletter. We've covered doing community assessments and labor market assessments already. So if you want to find out more about that, you could go to the post-session notes, and it'll have all the links that we discuss in them for you. So I would suggest you may want to do that connection. We usually talk about Brownfield news, what's happening, and I've talked a little bit about it. The RFA will be posted. We're going to have the webinar from EPA coming up. This is a good time to get your questions together, to specifically ask EPA. They will also issue, if you go to the links that have last year's, until that comes out, you could look at last year's. They have last year's RFA, and then also frequently asked questions. You can go to that and see what the questions have been for last year's. But when they have this, I would recommend anyone that's going to be submitting this year, and those of you who want to keep up with the RFAs, it's a good thing to attend. It's always good for existing grantees to attend these things just to make sure they're current. They change slightly every year, so if you keep up on it, I think you'll be in better shape when it's time to either re-up or if you have additional questions. Now, in addition to that, you're going to have the RFA announcement. This is all going to happen in the next month. The RFA announcement, the EPA webinar. KSU is going to have two webinars. We call it Job Training 101, and that's going to be on May 23rd. And what JT 101 is going to be a discussion of the critical issues of setting up a job training program. It's titled Establishing a Successful Job Training Program. And that link, Tim, you might be able to put that into the chat. Its registration is required. And actually, if you got the invites to today's session, we put a link in that also. And you may want to sign up for that. It'll be a good review of all of the critical issues that people confront to run a successful program. And it's a good overall view of the program. It's we call it JT 101. It's brand new this year. Then that's going to be followed by a JT 201, which is going to be held on June 12th. And that's going to be, and some of you may remember our PLCs where we talked about tips on writing a competitive EPA job training proposal. I would suggest strongly any of you who are going to be submitting a proposal, and those of you who want to look at the latest news on how your program may be evaluated, why don't you go to JT 201? And what we do in JT 201 is we cover mistakes that are commonly made by people writing job training grants. There's two parts of it. The first thing is to make sure that you include these certain things in your application. And then the second part of that is it's a collection of comments we've gotten from grantees and from regional coordinators on things that they've deducted evaluation points from applications. And it's always a good thing to check. And we'll have not only the webinar, but we'll have an accompanying document that you could download. And when you're writing a grant, I would suggest just going through our checklist and making sure that what we suggest you include, that you have included, and what we have presented as things that may ding your proposal, go ahead and double check your application to make sure that you haven't stepped on one of those landmines. And if you have, you might be cautious because they might deduct points. So that's all that is happening in the next month. So we've got the EPA webinar, we've got 101 on May 23rd, June 12th, 201. And then of course the RFA will be out and you have just 60 days. Now we're not sure, there's a remote possibility, I don't think so, but they may extend that. It's always been 60 days to respond to the RFA when it comes out. So that would be due beginning of August or the end of July. So it's a fairly short time frame. So all of that is happening in the next month. So this is a good time to, if you're going to be re-upping or you're going to be submitting a proposal, it's really a good time to kind of clear your calendar and attend the webinars. And our
Mike,
yes,
I have those listed in the chat box as well, registration links.
Thanks, Tim. That'll be there. And in case you want to jump onto some of those sites before the notes are posted next week. So all of these things are going to be happening. And then, of course, I want to just mention there will be some Brownfields association meetings. We're going to put in the notes. Florida conference. Any of you that are anywhere around Florida may want to attend the Brownfields Association conference. That's in June, the 26th to the 28th of June. That's a great conference. It's in Gainesville, and there are scholarships available. And you don't have to be a grantee or a resident of Florida. If you're in anywhere in that region, you may want to consider applying for a scholarship, and you may want to attend. And the reason I suggest you may want to attend is the people that go to that conference are potential employers. We find that employers in this business are national. You have local employers, but you've got national employers, and they've got projects all over the country. And they may have a job in your state or your community, and they're going to need people from your state. So it's a good place to touch base with the sponsors of these kind of regional meetings and just get some names and business cards so that you have a contact that when you go back to your own program and you start thinking later about expanding your employer partnerships, you may want to contact some of these people and tell them where you're at. And we also publish we call it an employee finder, which has all of the job training programs available and contacts, but it's always best if you contact them and tell them where you're at. And they would probably suggest, well, we may be doing work in your area, particularly the big ones that are sponsoring these associations, and let them know that there's a likelihood you may have graduates available that they may have. So save the date for that if you're in the Florida area, and if you can get a scholarship, there's a link in the notes on how you apply for the scholarship. That's due June 3rd. The last thing in terms of, well, another thing that I want you to talk about or put on your calendar now is the KSU annual all grantee meeting. The bad news is it's not going to be in Washington this year like it usually is. We're doing an every other year. We like to meet in Washington where we could do a face-to-face. And this is, I think, a great thing about this program, where grantees get to network and talk to each other about their programs. We're not going to be able to do that this year. But what we're going to be doing this year will be a little different. There'll be networking involved, and we're going to have some grantees talk about their programs, but it's going to be focused on resources that are available to grantees, the latest resources from different parts of the country, and also the innovative training strategies that people are using. For example, that we have a grantee using AI and a grantee using headsets in delivering their training. And so we're going to have some interesting discussions. It will be virtual. The registration hasn't come out yet, but that'll be August 21st. So if you want to put an X on your calendar, it'll be a half-day virtual webinar on the 21st of August, where we'll get to see all of the grantees. We usually have about 125 of our grantees, and all the EPA people will be there. So you'll have a chance to talk with them. Earlier, we were talking about the program in city of New York, the greatest institute that they were having there. One of our partners, this is a partner HMTRI had and KSU has, is a Partnership for Environmental Technology Education. It's called PEAT, and you may have heard of PEAT. PEAT is an organization that trains trainers, and every year they have a Greatest Institute. And the Greatest Institute is a train the trainer program. And some of you may have gone to that. It's a 5.5-day boot camp. And the reason I bring it up is it will provide your trainers the ability to become trainers. They'll get the certificates. They'll be part of that trainers community one of the issues that many of our grantees have is finding trainers or having control over their trainers. And some of our larger grantees, as they develop, they decide we want to have an in-house training staff. And Pete has partnered with us to allow our grantees to go to the Greatest Institute every year. And they'll be having them once a year, usually about this exact time. They're having one right now in Bettendorf, Iowa. And you'll get certification, so you could train to 1910 120, the HAZWOPER, confined space, quite a few other. You'll get many certificates and a whole lot of resources. And it's something that as your program develops and gets bigger, you may want to consider an in-house training staff. And some of you already have that. And we recommend them sending them to Pete to get certified, so then you don't have to rely on outside contractors. You'll have them in-house. And that, as I said, they give preference to our grantees, and it's something you may want to take advantage of. So let me talk for a second about some of the frequently asked questions that people have. And one of them that comes up is the timeline for those of you who just got a grant, or those of you who are going to be applying in August, July and August. And of course, I've already suggested that in May, the RFA will be released. And I've also suggested that as it looks now, you'll have only about 60 days to respond to the RFA, which is a very short deadline to do, considering all of the things you have to get ready for. Once you submit that application, which it sounds like it'll be towards the end of July or beginning of August, you have in about 15 days, they'll suggest to you, they'll write you a letter and say that you have passed the threshold criteria. When you look at the grant, there's a threshold criteria and then a ranking criteria. And the threshold criteria basically says it's a screen to say, yeah, you're eligible to go on into this competition, and then we'll evaluate your grant. If you don't have the threshold, and the threshold are basic things like, are you really a nonprofit? Are you within the basic rules and regulations of this grant? So once you pass the threshold, and if you don't, you'd be notified early, so you're not waiting to determine what's happened to your grant application. But if you do pass, then you go into what we call the long wait, and that's about 3 to 4 months. And the EPA is going to be evaluating your proposal, primarily based on the ranking criteria that will be in the guidelines. And hopefully before Christmas, they'll be announcing those people who have been accepted for funding or recommended for funding. And those who are not will have an opportunity to have a debriefing with the regional coordinators. And this is very important. Anyone, if you submit a grant and for some reason you're not accepted the first year, we really encourage you to reapply the next year. And part of that is, one, it takes time sometimes to develop these relationships, the partner relationships, to get the grant writing. We often suggest people really need to start writing their grant in January or February. It sounds like a long lead time, but you really need the time to develop some of the relationships they want you to have.
Hey, Mike?
Yes, sir.
There's a question in the chat box. Are the threshold criteria available up front to confirm prior to writing?
Yes, they are. And I would go to last year's RFA, and the threshold will be pretty close. So you could find out probably right now. Now, it may just be these our guidelines may come out tomorrow, but right off the bat, they give you the threshold criteria. And we do suggest everyone, before you go too far into the writing process, check the threshold criteria. And, you know, there are things like, are you a nonprofit? You know, is your grant, are you basically eligible to go on to the ranking criteria? But it's right up front in the guidelines. And that's a really good thing to start off with before you go too far into the grant. We encourage everyone to submit. If you qualify for the threshold, and the comment has been made to me, well, we're not sure that we're ready this year to submit. And I really say submit anyway. It's not going to penalize you for next year. And there's going to be a learning process. And there's a lot of good that come from submitting. And even if you are rejected, you, as I said, you're going to get a chance to talk to your regional coordinator. And because that regional coordinator will not be bound after the RFA comes out, they can't talk to you specifically about your grant, but before it comes out for next year, they could put you in touch with other grantees in your area. You could be attending our PLCs throughout the fall. You could attend the job training workshop we're going to have in August. We're going to have newsletters. You're going to be able to spend the whole fall season getting ready for the next grant. And you're going to be in the loop. So I always say, when in doubt, submit. The only exception is if you can't pass the ranking criteria, I mean the threshold criteria. So once you're on the treadmill, they're going to be evaluating your ranking criteria for 3 to 4 months. And then they're going to make the announcement of who got the grant. And I would say this is a very good year to submit a grant for several reasons. There's as much money available this year as there ever has been. We've had 2 cycles of 5-year grants. So some of the people who have been involved in this program for many years have already gotten their 5-year grants, so they're not going to be applying. So I think it's an excellent time to apply, particularly for new grantees, or if you're not familiar with this program, an excellent time to get into this. As I said, the announcement will be made before Christmas. Once that's made, then the first and second quarters of next year, they're going to be sending out grant packages to you. And you're going to have to accept it. Once you get it, you got to decide if you really want it and sign the grant packages. And then you're going to be working with work plans. Everything that you put in your grant, you're going to be committing yourself to doing and working with the grants office. And then they will, once you go through the whole grants process with the grants office, you've been accepted. Finally, those funds will be released. And then now you can start writing checks. That has to be done before September 31st, which is the end of the federal fiscal year. So you're going to be training, it takes about a year to get one of these grants from the point of when you're applying to when you can start writing checks. But once you're there, you're going to be good for 5 years. So you could start training in the fall of 25. Your cohorts could begin. You're going to be sending quarterly reports into your regional coordinators and into EPA to track your progress. You're going to be refining your program through that first year. You may find that partners you had could be doing a better job, or you may find some new partners. In all likelihood, you may find some really good new partners that you didn't know existed before, because they know you're out there and they want to join in on your program. So there'll be some tweaks. Actually, for the next 4 years, there'll be tweaks to your program. If there's significant tweaks, you're going to want to work with your project officer. Anything that you wrote in the grant that may change, you're going to want to talk to your program regional EPA coordinator to make sure that they're aware that you're changing some things that were in the grant. In some cases, you may have to get permission to do that. But through that next 4 years, you're going to be tweaking your program. You're going to be building up your relationships big time. And what's going to happen is you're going to start placing people, and employers are going to realize that you've got graduates that have been vetted, they've been trained, they have certificates that are probably worth about $6,000 in terms of trying to take a new employee and get them the certificates that you're going to be getting them. They're going to want to get to know you. You're going to find out who are the employers in your community that employ your people, because it's not only in your best interest to place people, it is really in their best interest to develop a relationship with you so they can get your graduates. So it's a two-way street. So for the next 4 years, you're going to be developing your cohorts, and that last year of the 5 years, several things are going to be happening. You'll probably be closing out the grant. You're going to want to place anyone who has not been placed. You're going to be closing out your grant. But more importantly, you're going to be looking at sustainability. When this project first started, the idea was we're going to give communities some startup money so they can get started, and then they're going to develop a lot of leveraging, a lot of things are going to be going on. People are going to want to contribute to their program, and they're going to be self-sufficient in a couple of years. And that proved to be a little more problematic. And what happened is we have some really, really good programs, and they have gotten a lot of leverage, and they've found partners who are contributing a lot to their program that EPA doesn't fund. Mostly we call them unsupported curriculum, the life skills, different activities that EPA would not support. So our grantees were really good, and they were bringing in support, but not all of them were able to find enough leverage support to completely not need EPA funds. So EPA has basically taken the approach: if you have a really good grant and a really good program and it's innovative, you can re-up and you can reapply, and we'll continue the program because it's so good. And obviously the federal government is getting well worth their money. The programs are leveraged, the people are being placed, the community is benefiting. It's a shame to not support those programs. So they have allowed re-ups. And as you see today, we've got grantees who have been with this program for 20 years, and they've re-upped, and they continue to do an excellent job. Now, you can't just resubmit the same grant every year. That does not work. But if you've got a really good program and you're expanding it and you're demonstrating to EPA how good your program is, this is not a one and done grant. It's a capacity building grant. So it's something that you want to keep in mind. It's another good reason, if you're thinking of getting involved in this grant, to get involved. It's a great starter grant. Another thing about the EPA grant, I would say, is it attracts other money. You may start out, I'll give an example of Recycle Force. It started out with a grant with us, and they're now moving into brand new facilities. They've got all kinds of partners, all kinds of leveraging going on. And there are other non-EPA federal programs that are bringing them in as partners to work with them. And so they're not only doing work for us in terms of our grantee, but they're also doing other programs that are associated, not the same program, but programs that are synergistic to this program, because they built up an environmental training capacity with health and safety and OSHA training that can complement other programs. So we find that there's many programs. Another one would be Santa Fe Community College. We were one of their first grantees, and now they're taking off their own training center. They're working with Los Alamos. They've got other programs. They're expanding their program. And what's nice about the EPA program is it's small enough that you could get into it as a starter grant with EPA. And once you're in it, you could then use it and keep going. We do have one grantee who decided they didn't need us anymore because they were getting state support. And so they really didn't need the AP grant. They kind of outgrew us. And another one in Boston that started with this grant and shifted their focus a little bit and went in a different direction. But I think the point I'm trying to get across is for those of you who are thinking of getting involved, it's definitely worth trying. And it's a great starter grant to go with. So let me, and you know, I have to apologize because I'm doing this solo. So I hope I don't put you all to sleep with my monotone voice, but we like to transfer as much information we can in a short amount of time. The next question I want to address though today, because the RFA is coming out and we got people who are wondering, they're thinking of starting a program or they've got a program, the question is, where can I get help? I'm new to the program. I don't know much about it. And of course, I've already suggested that EPA regional coordinators are there to help you up until the RFA comes out. And at that point, they're kind of shut down. But they could talk about the RFA, but not about your individual program. Outside of that, they want to connect with you. They want to get you on their lists. They want to put you in touch with other grantees in their region. So, and all of these will be in the post-session notes, all of the coordinators and how to get in touch with them. Then there's the tab. We're a technical assistance for brownfields provider. Kansas State University is handling, as far as we call it the boots on the ground. They handle the assessment and they clean up grants. And the country is divided into about 6 different areas where they have more regional tabs, and the technical assistance brownfields help what I call the cleanup people get their grants, and the assessment people. When HMTRI decided they didn't want to continue in this job training grant, KSU assumed the role of a national job training tab provider. So what I'm saying is that Steve and Tim and Nolan and myself are available for questions that you may have. If you have a group, you can write to us, email to us and say we'd like you to set up a Zoom. We have, for example, we have 3 tribes in the community, and we're thinking of submitting a proposal this year. Can you set up a Zoom for us? And we'll set the Zoom up, and we'll talk to all of the people that are interested. If you're just a community and you have a couple of people that you want to get interested, or if you're a community college and you want to get your chancellor, you want to pitch the program to them, we're there available to sit down with you and to talk to whoever might be about the benefits and the issues associated with the job training program. So we're there on a national basis to help with those questions. And the advantage we have is we could talk to you up until it's time to submit your grant. So just email, and the email addresses are in the news, the post-session notes, and you can contact us at any time. One thing that they're doing this year also is, if you have your grant proposal, your application written in time, if you get a good start on it and you have 2 or 3 weeks before it's due, you can approach your regional tab, whether it's CCLR or whether it's KSU or one of the other tab providers. They will review your application. And what they'll do is they'll take your application, and one of their consultants will go through your application, and they'll have a little checkbox. They'll look for things. They'll look for a lot of things that are in JT 201 and just double check to make sure that you've basically addressed what you need to address in that application. And they'll send back to you their opinion of what you may need to work on before you submit the application. So that's going to be new, and it's coming out in the next week or so, and you may be contacted by the regional tab that they'll be available to review your applications. And there's one other place I like to suggest as a place for getting help, and that's other grantees. Again, this grant is not like any others. We try to form ourselves as a community, and actually Pittsburgh, California has helped other grantees get grants. In fact, I remember, if my memory is right, that when Hunters Point was first applying for this grant, Pittsburgh, City of Pittsburgh, California helped them with their grant. And actually Cypress Mandela helped with other grantees in California get grants. So one of the things we do is in the fall, we will have grantees talk about their program. And after every presentation, we always ask the grantee, would you be willing to help other grantees if they have a question about what you're doing or how you wrote it into the grant or what you did? And we've never had a no. And so at the all grantee meeting, one of the big things is we're here to help each other. This is not a zero-sum game. There's enough money so that if you can write a good grant, you can get the project. So the main thing is to write really good grants. And that's one of the reasons we like to put everyone's name with their organization, because we're not having an open discussion right now today. But if someone says something, or if you see someone on there and you want to touch base with them, you could contact us and say, could you send us their email? We'd like to get in touch with so-and-so. They said something at the last PLC that I'd like to talk to them about. And we've had a lot of that going on with Recycle Force has provided a lot of helpful information to other recyclers. So those are the areas where you could get some help from people. And as I said, they're out there to help you. So as you can see, I could talk up a storm. So I'm gonna be a little careful in my remarks and try not to bore you too much. But one thing I do want to talk about is what happens when this RFA comes out and what should you do now? And we touched about that, and there was a question that will the threshold criteria be at the front of the grant application? And that's correct. That's the first thing you want to do is, do you qualify for this grant? And more likely from what I've seen today and everyone introducing themselves, you'll all qualify. You may have to dig up some paperwork on your nonprofit status and that type of thing when you apply, but you'll definitely qualify for the grant. It's basically all nonprofits and states and county governments and tribes, not private sector. So you could use private sector as contractors, but not as a primary grantee. But review the threshold criteria to make sure that you want to move forward. Then you want to see what kind of grant you want to submit. Are you going to be an individual organization, but you're going to want to have sub-grantees. For example, you might be a workforce investment board or a workforce board, and you want to have some sub-grantees, community college. You would be the primary grantee. You would submit the grant, and then you'd sub-grantee. You want to know that right off the bat, because sub-grantees, you don't have to compete for them. You can choose them, but they become part of your grant, and they're very integral to your grant. So you would write them into the grant. They would be a sub-grantee. They are subject to all of the conditions of the grant that you are. And it was just like they would be a mini grantee. You're the prime and you're handling the accounting and the fiscal part of it, but you would sub portions of it out. It's very common that a county may get a grant and they'll sub out the whole grant. They may do the oversight because they're very familiar with submitting grants to the federal government, but they'll sub it out to community college and say, it's your program. You're going to handle it. And that's a very common thing that's handled. Also, some grantees are big enough, they're a social service organization, say we could handle the whole thing ourselves. We don't really need sub-grantees. We'll use contractors if we need them. We'll contract. We may not have the trainers in-house, but we can compete for them and bring them in. So right off the bat, right after you think that you could qualify, you want to say, okay, what's our general structure? Are we going to be a coalition? If we want to get together 5 tribes, you may want to submit a coalition grant where you would have one of the tribes being the primary grantee. It's not too much unlike the individual grantees, but you would sub out the other tribes would be sub-grantees. The only difference is when you're an individual grantee, you're focusing on a very specific area. If you're a coalition, you might be covering 1 or 2 or 3 states that are loosely put together, several reservations. So it might be a broader area. So right off the bat, individual or a coalition. We already talked about the fact that if you're a former grantee and you're going to be re-upping, if you've closed out the old grant, or if you're not closed yet, you're going to want to make sure you're closed or you've spent 50% of your funds. So those are the more global things. Then you start saying, okay, so far it's looking pretty good. We feel that we're an individual grantee. We've got a lot of, we've submitted federal grants before, so we're familiar with grants.gov, and we're going to sub out our training to a community college. Well, the next question you have to ask is, do we have the staff to administer this program? And what I just said is, well, we're going to sub out to a community college, but what if we don't sub out to community college? We may have to find some trainers. So we're going to have to be doing some contracting. And we're going to have to develop some partnerships. Are there partners that we could access either contractually or leveraging? Where can we meet? Do we have facilities? You're talking about the global things. Can we really pull this thing off? You want to answer these questions first. You want to ask them really basic questions. Is there mayor behind me? Is the mayor behind me? Is the local precinct captain? Is there a need for this in my community? Usually we could say, oh, there's a need everywhere, but really, are there employers in the area that you think might be candidates as potential employers or potential partners? Before we get too far, we don't want to build it and they will come. We want to establish the need and find, yes, there is a place in this community. There's cleanups going on. There are local consulting firms. There's government activity. There's some redevelopment going on. yeah, there are potential for well-trained people. So again, we haven't even started writing the program. We're just saying, okay, is this a good fit for us? And so far we're okay. We think it's pretty good. It's looking good at this point. Now I have to start focusing on, okay, I've got to write this application. I've got 60 days to write it. Am I going to do it myself? And some of you may say, yeah, that's the way it's going to have to be. Or do I have the luxury of having an ad hoc committee? Do I, for example, I may belong to a bigger organization where I could subdivide some of these tasks up. And if you can, then you get your ad hoc group together. And that ad hoc, of course, even if you're doing it your own, you're going to have to find out, okay, we need someone who could submit this grant. Are they familiar with grants.gov? Are they familiar with SAMS? That's an argument for having maybe the county or community college or someone who's submitted other federal grants on your team. They may be the prime and they might sub the whole thing out to you. So you're going to want to feel these things out. Who's going to submit the grant? Do I have a team that I could pull together? If I have a team, can I assign some of these ranking criteria? Now, when this RFA comes out, you're going to see 8 or 9 ranking criteria, and you're going to have to respond to every one of these requests for information. And some of these, there may be people in your organization that say, oh, I'd like to respond to that because I'm familiar with it. There'll be other people that'll say, oh, I've done a lot of assessment, community assessments and labor market assessments. I'd like to do that. So you may be, as a principal organizer, the one that be delegating these tasks out to these different people. In the end, we recommend that one person write the grant. They're going to have to be the one that is, and the reason we suggest that is when you try everyone do a piece and you put it together, it's not coherent, and sometimes it can be contradictory or numbers don't match up, and those are big no-nos. Or you say one thing in one part of the grant and something the other. So you've got to have someone who is going to just run through this grant application. And those of you who have written grants know exactly what I'm talking about. Just go step by step and go through every one of those requests for information and go to the person that you assign to do that and say, hey, I need more from you, or can you get me this, or you haven't answered this question I need to have answered. And then you need to incorporate it into your grant application. So you want, when you're done, you want a coherent application that's you're going to respond to everything, and it's going to be, you won't have contradictions in it, and it'll read well. So that's that one person. And we find that every grant has one person that is just, they're the go-getter, and they're the ones often become the head person. The downside of that is we've also seen situations where that person who is a key person leaves the program, gets a better job somewhere else, and then the program goes downhill. That one person is so important to making this whole grant work. They become the project officer later. You may use a grant writer, but that you still have that key person that is organizing everybody, and they're the taskmasters. And that's really important that they do that. So, as I said, if you attend 201, that'll give you a really good idea of what EPA is going to be looking for in these grant applications. You want to be analytical. You want to use a lot of numbers. You want to make sure that you've identified brownfields in your community. You want to, if you can, submit it early for EPA review. That would be the ideal thing to do. And of course, whatever you do, you want to apply. You want to, even if you're getting toward this and you're getting bogged down, you say, this is a little bit much for me this year. I'm going to wait till next year. No, submit it this year. start filling out that application the best you can. It's going to give you a head start on next year's application. So that's kind of a good start. And I am not going to talk about, one of the things when we put out what we were going to talk about today was developing partnerships. And that's going to be, there's some things in the notes, and you guys have listened to me long enough about developing partnerships. As we go through these PLCs, we also we cover some of these issues of labor market assessments, community assessments, developing partnerships. And if you go to JT 201 and 202, you're going to get some more of this information. So now that I've spent the last hour or so talking, do any of you have any questions about applying, or hopefully you're thinking this is something I want to try. We want to continue with this. Any questions? Okay, well, no questions. Okay, Tim, are there anything in our chat that we want to touch on?
Not really, Mike. Everyone's just thanking you for the information. A lot of people had to take off because there's another meeting that they have to attend, but
right. Good. Well, that's good. The thing was, whether you're a new grantee and just starting your program, and if you are and you're having problems with recruitment or whatever, contact us. If you're an existing program and you're having problems with a regional coordinator or with EPA or anything, contact us, because we can talk to people without identifying grantees. We're kind of at a go-between EPA and the grantees. So if you have any issues or any problems you're having with the grant administration, we keep things confidential. If you want to get hooked up with anyone, linked up with any other programs, just contact us and we can help you out there. And we'll be, as I said, this is going to be a real busy month. By the next time we meet, the RFA will be out, and we'll be what we'll probably be doing in the next RFA will be discussing that RFA and some of the things and implications it has to existing grantees and potential grantees. So we'll continue from there. So if there's any questions, and my cohorts will be back, so you won't have to listen to me for 90 minutes. So that'll switch it up a little bit. Anything else anyone might have? Question? I would, as I said, I would strongly urge, no matter what, I would go to the EPA briefing, and I would definitely stop in at 201 and absolutely stop at 202 to find out some of the things that are taking points away from some of these applications that are coming in. Okay, well, Tim, I think you could probably turn off our recording, which will be available next week at